mistress before their marriage, and before her subsequent engagement to Viscount Peregrine St. James. "There are rumours that Napoleon's troops are at Quadrille," ventured Mary timidly, to try to turn the conversation away from Lady Clarissa. "Gossiping women," said Lord Hubert impatiently. "What do they know of military matters?" Mary opened her mouth to point out that it was the elderly Colonel Chalmers who had given her the news, but her husband had already marched to the door and was holding it open. She bent her head and walked before him down the stone steps from their rented apartment and out into the warm June night. The streets were thronged with carriages, their lamps gleaming and flashing in the dark blue night. Ladies laughed and flirted their fans, and the officers escorting them seemed as merry as ever. But the undertone everywhere was war. War stalked the cobbled streets and brooded in the darkness of the park. The laughter had an edge, and faces were lit with a hectic look. Lady Mary was suddenly afraid for her husband. She wanted to talk to him about the forthcoming battle. At first, it had seemed during the past carefree, sunny days that Napoleon was merely some type of low criminal who would soon be fettered and chained by the might of the Allied armies. But frightened rumours and scared whispers had grown in volume. Every time she had tried to convey her fears to her husband, he had snapped back that she knew nothing of such things, and so she had to hug her fear to herself. She was too timid and retiring and countrified to make any friends among the dashing Brussels belles, and so she had no one to confide in. "Not that I ever had anyone to confide in," thought Mary bitterly. Her parents, two grim members of the untitled aristocracy, had passed her over to the care of a nurse and then a governess since that day she had surprised them by coming into the world when her mother was 48 and her father 50. When she reached her 17th birthday, they had seemed to notice her for the first time. "Why, Mary, you have become a woman," her mother, Mrs. Tyre, had said with a grim smile. The next week, she was affianced, whether she liked it or not, to the impecunious Lord Challenge, the Tyres having decided it was time they had a title in the family. Mary had fallen desperately in love with Lord Hubert, with all the aching, tremulous passion of first love. But on their wedding night, he had brutally told her that he did not seduce virgins. It was an arranged marriage, nothing more. He would not interfere with her, provided she left him alone. But still she had hoped, until the day they had arrived in Brussels and Lady Clarissa had appeared as their first guest, looking at Lord Hubert with melting eyes. Every line of her body could be seen plainly through a transparent muslin gown, hinting at all sorts of untold intimacies. "Damn Clarissa!" Mary's eyes filled with unshed tears. The carriage rolled to a halt, and Mary braced herself for the ordeal. At first, she thought it was not going to be as bad as she had feared. Clarissa welcomed them, hanging on to the arm of her fiancé, Lord Peregrine. Lord Peregrine was a thick-set, brutish man with a fat blue chin and a great hooked nose. He had small, twinkling eyes, and his face was always creased up in a jolly laugh. But nothing could disguise the atmosphere of suppressed rage that he seemed to carry about with him. Mary did not like him one bit. But he was Clarissa's fiancé, and therefore his presence securely meant that Clarissa would be too occupied to flirt with Lord Hubert. Clarissa was a buxom redhead of about 30 years. Her dress of gold tissue was damped to cling to her body, and Mary could not help hoping she caught a fatal chill. Clarissa had